This week we're looking at when God called a man named Elisha to be a prophet. And the prophet who was given the task of letting Elisha know that he was going to be a prophet was another prophet named Elijah. And here's how that section went. It says, "So Elijah went from there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat. He was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, and he himself was driving the 12th pair. Elijah went up to him and threw his cloak around him. Elisha then left his oxen and ran after Elijah. 'Let me kiss my father and mother goodbye,' he said, 'and then I will come with you.' 'Go back,' Elijah replied. 'What have I done to you?' So Elisha left him and went back. He took his yoke of oxen and slaughtered them. He burned the plowing equipment to cook the meat and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he set out to follow Elijah and became his attendant." Now, the thing about the cloak seems very confusing, but basically that was the sign that God gave Elijah to let Elisha know that God was choosing a different career path for him right now, that his life was going to be different. This was the sign that God wanted him to be a prophet. And following that career path now, following God's will for him, meant leaving behind everything else. And so you saw that. He burned his plowing equipment, he gave away his food, he left behind his family, just like Peter and Andrew and James and John left behind their families and their fishing business when Jesus called them to be their disciples. But they did that because they were all in. And whenever God has called you to do in your life, that's something we need to have in common with them. We need to be all in when it comes to following him. Now, you may have never received a prophetic cloak over your shoulders, but at your baptism, the way the Bible talks about baptism, you are cloaked with Jesus' perfection. God promised you that he would always look at you in that context, perfection, and you were urged to live that way, perfectly. You were given a new way to live, and a way that means you must leave behind something too, that you must leave behind every sin. When Jesus said that if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples, he was saying that the teaching in God's word, all of God's word, gets to dictate what our definition of a great life is, which means that if there's something that you're doing in your life that you know God forbids, then you must either do your best to walk away from it immediately or come to grips with the fact that Jesus does not consider you to be his disciple. No matter how strongly you do, no matter how long it is you've been following him, Christians know that his or her identity is found entirely in the perfection and the forgiveness Jesus won for them on the cross, and knows that being a Christian means being determined to only do good things.
Hey, it's Amber L.B. Swenson. You might remember when my podcast Little Things was right here on Grace Talks, or maybe you've never heard of me. Either way, I want to invite you to listen to Little Things, which is now its own podcast. We take a look at little things and little ways that we can change our thinking to know and love God more. So please check out Little Things wherever you listen to your podcasts.